This video will discuss how to complete the square. In part 1, in this video, the number in front of the x squared, our leading coefficient, is going to be 1. So in this video, this number right here will be 1. Okay, so let's take a look at the first equation that we are going to solve. So the first step when we complete the square is we want the a and the b terms. Remember, this is a, this is b, and this is c. We want those on the same side. So in other words, the terms with the x's isolated. So we're going to go ahead and add 5. Okay, so now our second step is we're going to take b. So b is 8 right here, the number in front of x. So we're going to take b and we're going to divide by 2. Okay, so I'm going to do that right over here in this little area. So I'm going to take b and I'm going to divide by 2, and that's 4. So this is step 2. This was step 1 here. Okay, the next step, step 3, is we're going to take that answer we just got from here and we're going to square it. So step 3, we're going to take this 4 that we got and square it, and we get 16. So now step 4 is we're going to add this number to both sides. So since we got 16, we're going to add 16 to both sides. So now on the left side we have this trinomial, and on the right side we have 21. Now, if we did this correctly, here, and this 16 that we got, that we put on both sides, the purpose of doing that is now I should be able to factor this trinomial, and when I ask myself what multiplies to 16 and adds to 8, it should be the same number. That is what completing the square allows us to do. That 4 times 4 is 16 and 4 plus 4 is 8. You will notice the answer is always this number right here from step 2. So always step 2, that number will always go here and here. Okay, so now step 5 is we're going to write it like this. We're going to write it as x plus 4 to the second power. Okay, so that right there, we have completed the square. So when we have our problem, once we've completed the square, when it looks like this, we could do 2 things. Now, remember our objective is to solve here, okay? But this is just a side note. This is not how to solve. If I take, after I've completed the square, and I set it back equal to 0, so if I do this, this is in vertex form. And when something's in vertex form, we can look at it and remember that this is a -4 and then -21. That tells us that if we graph this parabola, what the vertex is of it. So that's what we just found, is the vertex. Now, if we go back, that's not what the problem asks. The problem asks us to solve. So the problem asked us to solve, not find the vertex. So that was just a little side to show you one thing that completing the square is good for. Well, here we are back at our problem. So our objective is to figure out what x is such that it will make it equal 0. Well, we've converted it to, by completing the square, to look like this. And the purpose of doing that is now I can square, right, because this 2 goes into this 2, and it's going to end up canceling out here. And whatever we do to one side, we have to do to the other. That is why we completed the square, so that we could square root both sides if our goal is to solve. And then I'm going to subtract 4. And we get, I'm going to put the -4 first just so it doesn't get confused for being in the radical. And then this is our final answer in exact form. The square root of 21 cannot be simplified. There's no perfect square that can go into 21. So our answer is -4 plus or minus the square root of 21, so that would be our exact answer. And then if we're asked to approximate it to the 100th place, we would enter this into our calculator and you would end up getting 0.58 and -8.58. So practice that with your calculator, make sure you can get those answers. Okay, so let's go ahead and try this example here and let's follow our steps. So the first step is we want our x squared and our x term. We want these to be by itself, so we're going to subtract 20. Okay, then our next step, step 2, and I'm going to do it right here in this box right here. So this was step 1. Step 2, it says to take b, so this is b, the positive 10 right here. So it says to take b and divide by 2, and we'd get 5. Okay, then step 3, it says to square it. So we're going to square it and we get 25. So then step 4 here says to add that 25 to both sides. So I'm going to go ahead and add 25 here and add 25 here. -20 plus 25 is 5. Now, if we did this correctly, then we should be able to do step 5. In other words, when we factor this, we should be able to think of two numbers that multiply to 25 and add to 10. And it's always going to be this number right here if we did this right. So we would have x plus 5 and x plus 5. So now, instead of writing it that way, instead, we could write it like this, x plus 5 squared. So now we have completed the square. So now that we have completed the square, so it looks like this, we've rewritten it so it's we have a binomial to the second power like that. What we can use it for is we can identify the vertex if we make it equal 0 over here. If we do this, okay, if we have that equation there, the vertex would be -5 and then -5 there. So this parabola's vertex is at -5, -5. Well, that's not what we were asked to do. We were asked to solve in this particular problem. So if we solve this, what we did was we took this and we rewrote it like this. So the whole purpose of doing that is so that now I could square root both sides, and this will cancel. And we can't simplify the square root of 5 over here. It cannot be simplified, so then I'm just going to subtract 5. And we would have x equals, I'm going to put the -5 first, plus or minus radical 5. And that would be our exact answer. And it's as simplified as much as possible. Now, if I put this answer in my calculator, so go ahead and do that, and make sure you can get -2.76 and -7.24 for x.